So good evening. My name is Zach Werkowitch. I'm with History Colorado, and my office is at El Pueblo History Museum. I'm here with tonight's speakers, Sky Roosevelt Morris, Fawn Fallis, and Theresa Trujillo. Tonight's event is part of History Colorado's Borderlands of Southern Colorado Online Lecture Series, offered by History Colorado's museums, El Pueblo History Museum, Fort Garland Museum, Trinidad History Museum, and the Indian Museum. Before we start tonight's program, in the spirit of healing and education, we acknowledge the 48 contemporary tribes with historic ties to the state of Colorado. These tribes are our partners. We consult with them when we plan exhibits, collect, preserve, and interpret artifacts, do archaeological work, and create educational programs. We recognize these indigenous peoples as the original inhabitants of this land. As always, I'd like to thank the Sangre, Cristo National Heritage Area and Colorado State University Pueblo for their support of this series. And if you'd like to support our Borderlands project, you can give at coloradogives.org/communitymuseumsonline. This is offered on a donation basis only, so your support allows us to continue and expand on events like tonight. And so at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce the moderator of tonight's panel, Theresa Trujillo. Theresa, panelists, welcome. We're excited to have you.
Mute. Thank you. I got dropped from Zoom, but then Zoom brought me back in. So thank you very much. I hope I didn't make you too nervous. My name is Theresa, and I have the honor of moderating a short discussion this evening. I keep looking at Sky. I've never seen Sky's face exactly like this. I think she's so excited to be seeing Fawn, even if it's via video. And so we're going to talk a little bit this evening about Native and Indigenous resistance, protest, ceremony, and community. We're hoping to talk a little bit both with Sky Roosevelt Morris and with Fawn Fallis about their roles in protest and the importance of both ceremony and community in 21st century Indigenous resistance. So we're very grateful to History Colorado for providing this platform. And there are a number of folks, I think there's over 50 participants signed in, a number of whom who were present here in Pueblo for the Four Directions March that happened this morning and the rally following that. So a number of you were present there. And for that group of folks here in Pueblo who've been protesting for about 28 years, more than half of that time has really been spent with that protest grounded in ceremony. And that has made a tremendous difference for us. And I think ultimately it is what helped us to convince the state of Colorado to finally recognize Columbus's atrocities and to abolish the holiday. And so I think grounding things in ceremony has been very helpful, not just for folks that we are demonstrating against and speaking out to, but it has made a difference in our own organizing. So I'm really eager to talk with Sky and Fawn this evening and to hear a little bit about their perspectives. So I would invite you each to tell us a little bit about yourselves, and you're free to speak to whatever you'd like. And I'd like you to speak to why you choose to engage in resistance. And you can also speak to consequences that you or others have faced as a result. And so whomever would like to begin.
Go ahead, Sky.
No, the people came to hear you, Fawn. They already know who I am, so.
Okay, so first off, hello everybody. Hello relatives, my name is English Galupa, we Fawn in Lakota. My Lakota name is Chinte Washtewi. I'm an Ogallala Lakota from Pine Ridge, South Dakota. I grew up in Denver, Colorado, and I've been an ally with our relatives down in Pueblo since elementary school, fighting the abolished Columbus Day, standing up for people's, Native peoples, Indigenous people's rights, and against prejudice and racism. I would like to take a moment to say hello to everybody and to be thankful for this opportunity to speak with everybody and be a part of this panel tonight. I am very honored to be sitting with my little sister Sky and the organizers of this of the Four Directions March. That's something that my mom carried in her heart and her mind. We spent so many years going up against the Italians in the Denver community of over Columbus Day since I was in elementary school. And this is something that's dear to my heart. And although I'm not there with you guys this year, I will be there next year and every year after that. Once again, standing up on the front line as much as possible. I guess just to introduce myself, I'm one of many water protectors that came and stood up against Dakota Access Pipeline in 2016, unceded territory for the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation. This has been a lifelong journey for me to stand up. I was raised this way by my mother and my family, my extended family, and my community. And I'm once again just thankful to be here. Go ahead,
Dagwete, Sky Roosevelt Morris, Onse. My name is Sky Roosevelt Morris. I come from the White Mountain Apache Nation and the Shawnee Nation, and I saw many of you earlier today in the streets of Pueblo, Colorado. And I'm sorry, before you all logged on, this is the first time that I'm seeing my sister Red Fawn, since she's been incarcerated. So it's just very emotional for me, but I just really want to thank everyone too for for doing this work, because it's important, and the background that I have on my Zoom is really important. And it's I think this is from 2007, maybe 2008 perhaps, one of the Columbus days down in Denver. And so you see the blood behind me and the doll parts and the cops and then the flags. And so, we've been doing this a long time. And so, why do I do this? To me, it's just, how can you not? To me, that's the more important question, especially as an Indigenous person. To be born as an Indigenous person is an act of resistance, and whether you choose to take up that fight or not is, totally up to you. But to me, to do any less is to do a disservice to the people that we come from, the legacy that all of us come from as Indigenous peoples. And I'm just really honored to be on this panel with my sister Red Fawn, who has sacrificed her body, sacrificed all of her well-being, for the benefit of our people and the other water protectors as well, and the people who continue to engage in this frontline work, wherever they may be. I'm just really grateful to all of them to be leaders in showing the rest of us, what our responsibilities are going forward in this work, and that this is just the beginning of a lot of good work to be done. So thank you very much.
So Red Fawn, your name was spoken into our circle many times today as we gathered, both in ceremony of the Four Directions and at the rally following. I want folks who maybe aren't as aware to be crystal clear that Red Fawn was singled out by law enforcement at Standing Rock. She wound up bearing the brunt of police and state anger over the resistance. We know that the real criminals are the oil companies and those in government and law enforcement who aid and abet their destruction of our Mother Earth. But I want to be clear that Red Fawn faced the most severe challenges and was incarcerated for the longest period of time. And so what I would like to ask you all to speak to is to tell us a little bit about the role of ceremony in sustaining you and your community, and how has ceremony been an important part in resistance?
Okay, I guess I'll start. I believe that ceremony should be first and foremost in everything that we do. Our ancestors come from that way of life as an Indigenous person. As an Ogallala Lakota, that's very it's very imperative that everything we do, from the time that we wake up to the time we lay down and go to bed, we honor our ancestors, our spirituality, our spirit being, our way of thinking with that prayer, when we live in prayer. From everything that we do, to sitting down to a meal, to having honorings, to gatherings, we always ask our elders to stand up and to pray. And that's just to acknowledge our relatives, our future generations, and our ancestors, and to carry us forward in a good way, with a good heart, a good mind. And I think that without this, we lack protection, and we lack the resources that we need to go about getting healing as we embrace others, when we're fighting against injustices, when we're standing up to be a part of things that are good. We need to embrace prayer and ceremony and take that with us at every step of the way. If it wasn't for the prayers and the ceremonies that I was a part of, at Standing Rock for so many months, living there and waking up and going down to the water and being part of that ceremony every morning, I don't know how I would have got through the 4 years of incarceration that I was faced with, or through all the confusion and all the emotion that I went through being persecuted for, standing up for what I believed in. When I went to Standing Rock, it was at a turning point in my life where, I had buried my grandmother, and I buried my Ina, my mother, and it was a choice that I made to walk forward in ceremony, to remain sober, to remain with a good heart and a good mind. And this was something where I could help the people. But it was a prayer that was started by the youth. It was started by the people of Standing Rock and all the relatives along the river. And it was actually a prayer that was started by our ancestors. So I think that ceremony isn't an option. It's something that is our responsibility to carry forward, to teach our children, to instill in our children, so when they're lost and they're, trying to find their way in the world, and they've come across troubles and hardships, that this spirituality, that this prayer, that this ceremony that we taught them when they were little will bring them back to that way. Will show them their path back to who they are, and will be able to enable them to deal with things in life and traumas. And I, speaking for myself, that's what helped me, with prayer and smudging and ceremony, and remembering that this was a continued prayer. Whether I was behind bars or if I was out here with my brothers and sisters on the front line, prayer is what got us through it. Ceremony is what got us through it. Ceremony is what's helping us to continue to heal. And ceremony is what's going to carry us forward and get the results that we need. And it's not going to be overnight, and it might be a next generation. But as long as we stay in ceremony and in prayer, then we're doing what we're supposed to do. That's our responsibility and our obligations to our future generations, to carry that ceremony into the next phase.
Sky, would you like to speak to the value and presence of ceremony and resistance for you?
I'll just say something briefly, just that for a long time, for us as Indigenous peoples, to have ceremony was illegal. And a lot of times our generation forgets that. We forget that it was illegal to have sun dances. It was illegal to do the ghost dance. It was illegal to do a lot of these ceremonies that we have done since our creation stories, or that have been given to us through time, through lessons, through relationships with creation. And so I think something that my Uncle Glenn tells me all the time is that you can't, spirituality and political consciousness are one and the same for Indigenous peoples. You can't be a spiritual person and not be politically engaged, and vice versa, because again, to be an Indigenous person is to be in an act of resistance. And so even our spirituality is always under attack. It's always being threatened. It's always being questioned. It's always being commodified. It's always being, persecuted, as my sister said. And so we have a responsibility to defend that, and defend the people who want to live in that traditional way. And for those people who don't, that's, you know, they're right. But for those people who want to maintain a sense of traditional relationship to all of us, to creation, you know, I think that we have a responsibility to defend that, because for most of our interaction with the colonial world, our spirituality has been illegal, ceremonies have been illegal. And so I think that we should never forget that, and we should always be doing those things, as my sister said, because they were forbidden for us to do those things. And so we must remember them. We must, and they're not lost. They're merely hidden away, and they're hidden away in our blood memory. They're hidden away in all of these relationships that we have with our elders. They're hidden away in our relationship with the land. And so it's not about them being lost forever. We just have a responsibility to remember them and to reinvigorate them. And so how do we do that? We do things like what my sister did. You go up to Standing Rock and you live it. You don't just talk about it. You actually go out and you do it. You live ceremony every single day. And that's what people are doing on Mauna Kea, at Standing Rock, at Oak Flats, at Wet'suwet'en. Wherever there are Indigenous people engaged in resistance, they are practicing spirituality, because those two things are one and the same. Our resistance and spirituality have to go hand in hand.
Cross today as I was talking with them at the completion of the Four Directions March. And one of the things that Robert Cross said to me is, you are a prayer of action. And I think that matches up with what you're saying, Sky, that that for us, ceremony and how we engage in ceremony is also a part of how we engage in resistance. And so what I'd like to know from the two of you are, what are the ways that you are a prayer of action? What are the ways, particularly in these last 6 months, have you been a prayer of action?
Go ahead, Sky. I'll think about that question.
I don't know. I feel like this is a trick question. I got prayer of action. I don't know. I don't know if I've lived up to a prayer of action that would be adequate for my ancestors, quite frankly. You know, there's a lot of things that, including the repealing of Columbus Day, you know, it's not Indigenous Peoples Day, it's Mother Cabrini Day. And as I explained to everybody today about why I don't care for Indigenous Peoples Day either. But also it's this continuation of a worldview that I just want it to burn down. Like, I just want to burn it down. I want it all to disappear. And to me, that's a prayer of action. That's the prayer of action that our ancestors are asking us to do. And I'm just not sure that I've adequately answered that prayer yet. And I'm really working on it. And I'm inspired by people like my sister here who are doing it. And so it's something that I aspire to. I'm not sure if I have actually, gotten to the point where I really believe that I am a prayer of action in the way that my ancestors, I think, really need me to be, in the way future generations need me to be, in the way that our present needs all of us to be in. So I think it's a really great question, though, and I think it's something that I should write on my mirror so that I can remind myself every day that is our responsibility. So thank you, Theresa, for sharing that.
What does it look like to be a prayer of action? Maybe that might be helpful for folks to hear. What do you imagine a prayer of action to look, one that lives up to that of our ancestors? What do you imagine that looking like?
Me or right, Bob? I think it's dedicating your life to the betterment of your people. I think it's putting your people and the land ahead of yourself. And I think it's always thinking about how your actions impact not just yourself, not just your family, but communities and generations in the past and all of it, and how it's all interconnected. I think those are things that are prayers in action. And when you do those things, when, like my sister said, when you give thanks every day, because nothing is ever promised to us. We're never guaranteed the sun to come up. And so that's why somebody spoke today about we should be getting up with the morning star and greeting the day, because we're never guaranteed that the sun is going to come up. We just assume that in this colonizer society, but that's not something that's promised to any of us. And so that's a prayer in action. When you get up and you greet the day and you say, thank you for letting me just be alive, regardless of the circumstances surrounding that, I'm alive. Like I have air in my lungs right now, for better or for worse, you know. And so I think that's a prayer in action, and that's something I think our ancestors want us to do. And I do my best, but you know, again, it's a work in progress.
So talk to us, Red Fawn, about what you imagine being a prayer of action looks like and feels like and reveals for you.
Okay, so I got the easier part of this of this segment, because to be a prayer of action is something that I believe that all of us could aspire to do, is to be a prayer of action. And you know, we all play a huge part in something that's more than just a human thing. It's a universal thing. I think that every day we can strive to be a better relative. We can strive to be a better tenant of this land, of this earth. We could strive to be a better example of humanity. Those are prayers of action that, you know, those are minimal things, but they're hard for us. As removed as we are by technology, by now this COVID, where we have no human interaction, where everything's like stay 6 feet apart, you know, do things where, you know, where you're not interacting on a human level anymore. You have to go through this technology, and you're putting your spirit there, and it minuses that. It takes away from that of who you are. You know, I could sit here, and if I was there with all of you in person, I could give you a hug, and I could give you a piece of my energy, and I could be a prayer. I could give you that prayer. I could give you that goodness that I feel towards you. But with this technology and this world that we're in right now, I'm not able to do that. So I convey this through words and through my expressiveness. And I hope that you can receive that in a good way. So a prayer action for me would be to ignite that humanity once again, to say, hey, you know, you're my relative. This is my unchi that I live on, that I walk on, and to honor that with everything that I do, like mass consumption, to buy a lot of things that are unnecessary. Like I've been thinking a lot about what can I do to be proactive? What can I do to be a good relative? Where do I go from here? There's so many questions, and what it all boils down to is to do whatever I choose to do, whatever path I take, to do it with a good heart and a good mind, to be in prayer, and to remember that this isn't about me, and this isn't about you. This is about our future generations. This is in honor of our ancestors that walk with us and guide us and give us strength and the courage that have taught these things to our older generations, in order to hand them down to us, so that we may hand them down to our children. And I think that to be a good prayer of action is to remember that obligation, to remember those lessons, and to start handing them down. Hand your child some medicine, hand your child a lesson, instead of handing them technology or a cell phone, or, you know, a DVD or a movie or a video game. Hand them something that they're going to be able to pass down to their children, that's going to carry them into the next generation, and things that are going to be imperative for their children to know, in order for them to be good stewardess of this land and to be good relatives. That's a good prayer of action for me. And to always stand up and fight for what you believe in, to really engage in what's necessary, like standing up for clean water. That's not something, a choice that you get to make. That's what you're obligated to do. I grew up swimming in creeks, rivers. When I was at Standing Rock, I'd swim in that river, Missouri River, Cannonball River, every day. I didn't care. I'd come out all muddy and I'd be happy. Because you know what? That's a part of my uchi. That's uchi maka. That's her water. That's her medicine for us. And are my children, are my great grandchildren, are my great great grand relatives going to be able to do that? So that's not a choice that we get to make. That's an obligation that's a responsibility that is serious. So I think that to be a pair of action is to be a human and to remember that you're not here alone. The things that you do get passed on to your future generations. And so to be a good pair of action, on my part, I would like to start a youth and elder revitalization program, the Keepers of the Wisdom Project. And I can't wait to get home to Denver because I have so many things that I want to do. But everything that I'm looking forward to doing is as a good relative and is in honor of my future generations. And it's to help not myself, but to help my community and to help my elders, because there's so many of our elders that are sitting at home, are sitting in nursing homes, and they have all this knowledge and they have all this wisdom, and it's an inconvenience for us to sit there and listen to them. My mom and my grandmother were storytellers, and they used to go to schools and they used to tell kids of all different races and nations and backgrounds that their stories of the Lakota and the Shahiela people, and they would go in their traditional outfits. They would go in their traditional outfits and they would share that with them. And those are things that we need to respect and honor and take advantage of, because our wisdom holders, our wisdom keepers are dying. You know, we're losing language carriers. We're losing this wisdom, and it's our obligation to hang on to that, to embrace that, to show respect for that, and to acknowledge that. And so that's something that I would like to be prayer of action. That would be my prayer of action, and that's not something that I've done yet, but that's something that I aspire to do.
Beautiful. I think it's particularly powerful for someone like you who has, is, and will continue to sacrifice and pay the price of our collective resistance, to invite others into that space and to invite others into being able to be a prayer of action. I think that's tremendously powerful. I want to talk a little bit about community in our highly globalized world. How do the two of you define community? Who is your community, and how do you foster your sense of belonging to and with your community?
Sky.
I feel like you're like the warm-up, Sky. You go a little and then Red Fawn cuts loose.
All right. Who is my community? My community are the people that I'm accountable to. My community is my ancestors. My community is my relatives. You know, my community is creation. That's who my community is. It's the people I'm accountable to. It's life that I'm accountable to. And how do I foster those relationships? Is, like my sister said, just trying to be a good relative, just trying to defend them when people are attacking them, when a worldview is attacking them, you know, and so community has been everything. And I think, again, that makes us different from a lot of the invaders, because they're very individualistic. That's the worldview that they come from, is to be about I instead of we and us. And so one of the elders said that today, and I really liked that, about we and us and not I. And so that to me is really, I think, a key about Indigenous peoples as well, is that we're just very community oriented. Collective thinking is when we're at our best, honestly. And so, yeah.
Red Fawn, tell us about your community.
Wow. When I was growing up, I thought my community was Denver. I thought it was the people that I was interacting with on a regular basis. And going to Standing Rock, I learned that my community is worldwide, and it comes in every color, race, shape, and form. It comes from the earth, and it comes from the two-legged, the four-legged. It comes from all nations. It comes from the Oyates, the rains, the thunders, the sun. Comes from prayer. That's my community, and that was a great lesson to learn, because it takes away, and Sky, I should have went first because everything you said was what I was thinking. and as I went through these questions earlier today, I really thought about it, and then I said, shoot, I'm just gonna pray before I do this, and then I'm gonna just go with my heart and speak on that. And I really believe that at camp I came away from that us and them mentality, that way of thinking, because my community is worldwide. It's going to be 4 years in October. I'm still locked up. I'm in a halfway house. I get to go to work. Other than that, I'm in this building. I don't get to do video visits unless it's on the weekends. I have more freedom in prison, minus being inside the walls. So it'll be 4 years in October, and there's never been a day where I haven't had support, our love, our encouragement, our letters, our monetary donations, some kind of support in abundance from all across the world. And that's my community. Because when we were at Standing Rock, we came together. There was the First Nation. There was all our relatives from every nation. There's people from all around the world. There was people all around the world that worked there with us, that put in the work, that made sure that we were heard, that shared everything that we were going through. And they did it with all their hearts. And that's my community. Every single one of you, I'm grateful for. Every single relative, I'm grateful for. Every single ally, I'm grateful for. So community to me is a common unity. When we come together in unity, then we become a community. And that's something that I always want to be a part of. I never want to be me or I or us or them. I want to be a part of this worldwide community that I'm now a part of, and I'm thankful for that. Because I know that anywhere I go, when I meet someone, I can give you a hug. And I don't have to feel awkward about that because you're a part of my community. And we're a part of that unity. And that's something that I want to carry forth with me. And in prison, it's different, things are a lot real segregated. And I was able to take that attitude and that perspective into prison and embrace people from every walk of life. When I went to prison, when I got locked up, I was a little judgmental and I was a little shallow, and I had no clue about humility. But they say if you don't humble yourself, Creator will humble you, and that's the truth. I took a lot of things for granted, and it's my turn to give back, to be a good community member, to do everything that I can to help others, to learn, to be taught the things that I need to do in order to encourage and embrace and learn and teach and be a teacher and honor and respect everything. So yeah, I'm thankful for the Maniwi Choni prayer. I carry that fire in my heart. I'm thankful for my partner, Simple Wally. He's been there. He was at camp. And this is something that, we walk away from camp, and it's always going to be a part of us. It's always going to be a part of everyone that was there. And it's always going to be a lesson that can be taught. So I'm grateful for that community. I'm grateful to be a part of that lifeline. I'm grateful to be an Ogallala Lakota in this day and age. I'm grateful that my people survived, and I'm thankful that my ancestors were strong hearts and they remained in prayer and ceremony. And I'm very thankful to be here today with all of you.
Thank you both. Thank you for those beautiful visions of what community is. I feel like particularly Red Fawn, as you were talking, I realized that part of your yes to being a part of this panel is about this vision of community and how you can be a good relative, and we get to benefit from that. And so thank you both for allowing us to benefit from being in community with you all. And I think, Sky, your piece about accountability can't be overlooked. And the fact that to be in community with one another also means to be accountable to one another, and to be present in that accountability is really hugely, hugely important. Before we get to the last question that I've sort of prepared for our time together, I do want to invite our 65 or 66 other participants who are part of this call. If you have a question that that you want to see asked, I know we won't get to everyone's questions, but put some in the chat, and we'll take a look at those. And there's a willingness, I think, to maybe look at a couple of those questions and see about getting those answered in the time that we have left. But I want to ask you both what you imagine to be the future for Indigenous and Native resistance, particularly in this part of the world. So in North America, in the US, what do you imagine to be the future of Indigenous and Native resistance? What should we be ready for? What should we be prepared for? What is the work that you're doing that is looking forward?
I think that the work that we're doing is something that we've been doing. It's a lifelong work, and a lifelong work continues throughout every day, throughout every struggle. As you know, down in Pueblo, you've been fighting this fight for this around this holiday for decades, for more than 4 decades. And I think I see in the future, I see more and more people being awake, I see more and more people standing up, more and more people finding courage and having that desire to instill that belonging in them, that spirituality, that ceremony, that resistance, because as we all know, resistance is mandatory. It isn't an option. Moving forward, I would like to see the youth, really, I would like to see a relationship with the youth where we're able to be at a humble level and actually listen to our youth and help them and encourage them. I think that their hearts and their minds are open and they want to know these things. They're looking for that teaching. They're looking for that guidance. They're looking for that healing. And moving forward, I really see, strong hearts coming from our future generations. And I'm very thankful that, we have all these beautiful children in our lives. I am very close. I don't have children myself. I'm very close to my nieces and nephews, and they're all doing great, wonderful things, and in college, and they all believe in that. But I would like for them to be more spiritual and more involved in ceremony and be more involved in the resistance. That's something that moving forward, I would like to ignite or initiate in my family. Is I know my nieces, 3 of my nieces were up at Standing Rock with me, and they documented it, but that's something that they're going to carry with them. And my brother said, hey, I'm going to bring my kids up there and I'm going to leave them with you. And I got arrested. It was the second time I got arrested, and they were in the van and they were like, oh my God, Auntie got arrested. And I thought for sure, oh no, my brother's going to come get his kids and he's not going to trust me ever again. And, I didn't mean to do that, but, my relatives were out there and they had us trapped at the dead end incident. And, I was there in a good way. And I felt that I should get out and try to, do something about it. And I ended up getting arrested. And my nieces, those are things that they learn and they'll carry with them. There's a lot more things that they need to learn. So there's a lot that we all need to learn. I don't know nothing. I know from my experience that I used to think I knew a lot, but I learned differently. And I no longer take things for granted. And I have an open heart and open mind to be a part of everybody's teaching, everybody's learning. And so future resistance, I see our youth really taking the bull by the horns and moving forward in a good way, in a strong way, in a clear-minded, healing way. And I think that we really need to contribute to that by human interaction and community and ceremony.
Excellent. Sky, what thoughts might you have?
Well, I hope that, that the future of Indigenous resistance is and will always continue to be based in the land. And I think land-based struggle is very important. What we learned at Standing Rock is removing ourselves from the prisons of urban environments and going back to the land. I think that's really important. It's vital to who we are as Indigenous people. It's vital to who we are to survive as Indigenous people. And so I really hope that our struggle and our acts of resistance continue to be very much based on the land, based with the land. And I think also, as Red Fawn said, I think it has to be spiritually based, of course. And I think it has to be land-based, it has to be spiritual-based. It's going to be matrilineal. It's going to be based off of this non-patriarchal way of being, because it has to be, because patriarchy is destroying the planet. It's devouring everything. And so we can no longer tolerate that sort of thing. And I think that matrilineal energy, which was what, was being defended at Standing Rock, Mini-Wachoni, water is a woman's energy. It's a life-giving energy. And so there's nothing wrong with that energy. I think having its time to heal, having its time to restore everybody else who's all dysfunctional and messed up. And I think it has to be a resistance of being horizontal. I don't believe in hierarchies. Our people didn't believe in hierarchies. And so I think the resistance going forward is about not having leadership. I think it's about all of us accepting our responsibilities and taking it seriously and encouraging one another and supporting one another. As my sister said, getting the young people ready and helping facilitate their dreams, their aspirations, and help them shape that into realities. Because as I was coming back from Pueblo, I was thinking, well, I just want to burn it all down, but I want us to do something with those ashes. I want us to build a garden with those ashes. I want us to create something, and I want it to be a garden of our dreams. I want it to be a garden of our dreams that becomes a world in which Indigenous people can live, a world in which young people can live, a world in which Black people can live, a world in which white supremacy doesn't exist and racism doesn't exist and colonialism doesn't exist. And the only way that we get to those places is if we burn it down. And so that's what I hope the future of Indigenous resistance looks like, is no longer tolerating these ridiculous piecemeal offerings that do nothing but corral us, whether it be Indigenous Peoples Day or whether it be even treaties to a degree. Like we have a right to be free people in our own homeland. We have a right to just be free in our own homeland. That's what I want the future of Indigenous resistance to look like, is for us to remember why we started to do what we started to do. It was to be free in our own homeland and for all of our relatives to be free alongside us. And so I hope that that's what the future of Indigenous resistance looks like, because that was the people that inspired us. And I hope that that's what, continues to be the vision going forward.
I also have the vision and thought often about, I want to burn it all down. That those can be some hard spaces sometimes. Soledad Tafoya, who's an organizer here in this community, sent in a question that I'd like you both to react to. She talks about how this work can be really emotionally and physically exhausting. And so what are some of the ways that you recharge your spirit? What are some of the things that are your sort of go-tos? That's the first part of the question. And the second part is from Leslie. How do you decide where to put your energy in your resistance work? How do you, what is your discernment process? How do you say, this is something I'm willing to take on and this is not?
Okay, for me, I'll go ahead with that. So with everything that I'm moving forward with, and a choice that I've made consciously throughout this ceremony, is to remain in ceremony, to pray about these, move away from things that involve me or promoting myself. I want to promote the people, the struggle, the desire to for betterment, the resistance against things that destroy us, that tear us down. There's always going to be balance. So there's going to be negatives and there's going to be positives. But before I was reactionary, now I'm contemplative. I contemplate the degree of effect that it will have on others, what I participate in. what happened to me? Am I angry? Well, yeah, there's times that I'm angry, I'm confused, I'm sad. But what can I do about it? I can take that and I can turn it into something good. I can use that to help me to help others. And when I help myself heal, I'm able to help others in a good way. Healing is a long process, and it's imperative that we help each other heal, that we encourage one another to heal. So the burning it down attitude, we're humans. We're gonna feel like that. We're tired. We've been hurt. We've put up with too much. We've lost lives. We've lost time. We've lost generations. We've lost languages. We've lost ways of life. So we have the right to feel angry, to feel unjustified. But what do we do about that? We move forward with it in a prayerful, ceremonial way. We pray about it. We smudge off when we have those bad feelings. We pray and we think about all the good that we want to do. And in order for things to be good, we have to put in nothing but good. They say everything you put out there comes around tenfold, while Lakotas believe that everything goes in a circle. So no matter what you're saying or you're feeling, you're a human. You're a common person. And so you have that right. You're valid to feel that way. But how do you project that towards other people in a good way? Through prayer, through healing. And that's something that we must carry with us. And it's hard. It's very hard. You know, I have a lot of support, and then I have some people that, you know, want to come and jab me, say or do something, or I'm just like, geez, you know, that's kind of mean. You know, what would ever possess you to do that? But then I remember that, you know, you're rightful to feel that way. You're in your right to feel that way. And I'm nobody. I don't have no control over that. But I'll pray for you, because I would like for someone to pray for me when I'm not being as I should be, when I'm not being a good relative. I hope somebody offers me encouragement and tells me, hey, let's shop. Like, take courage. Be who you need to be. And quit thinking about what everybody else is doing and saying, and think about what you're supposed to be doing and what you're supposed to be saying. And do that in a good way, because that's all you can do. And if you're doing that, then you're doing a small part in what needs to be done. So really separating all that and using your energy in a good way. Something that I always wanted to do while I was in prison was lay down on the grass. You know, there's paths in prison where you have to stay on those paths, and you're not allowed to sit on the grass, and you're not allowed to embrace Mother Earth. And I like to pick up grandfathers like the rocks and carry them with me, because that's a part of my grandmother. That's a part of my ancestors. That's a part of everything that always is, you know, all my relatives, my relationship with Earth. And that little piece I could take with me and carry with me. And so when I came out, a part of my re-energizing was to sit on Uchimaka, to go and sit outside and watch the stars and feel the breeze. And, you know, those are things that re-energize me, being real, you know, being a part of that life, because technology, working, that's not who we are. We're humans. We come from this beautiful planet, this Uchimaka, this beautiful earth, this medicine. We come from something so great that scientists are studying it, and they still don't have it figured out. They still don't have the answers, because it's not supposed to be that. We're supposed to be embracing that. We're supposed to understand that we're human. We're supposed to humble ourselves enough to say, hey, this is something greater than us. And I want to be a good part of it. I want to be a good relative to it. I want to take all that goodness in, and I want to project out more goodness. So, you know, it's just the way of getting control of your mind. And, you know, I'm a human being. I get angry and I get upset and I get frustrated. And, you know, I'm trying to come back to Colorado, and there's roadblock after roadblock, and dealing with people that aren't like-minded, and I don't understand it. And sometimes I want to cry, because all I want to do is go home. I just want to go home and be with my family. You know, I sat down and I took responsibility, and I did what I had to do, and I did my time, and now I want to go home. And it's frustrating. But what do? I honor that prayer and that ceremony, and I know that Tunkashila has me here to learn more. This is something that is greater than me, so I embrace it, and I accept it, and I honor it with a prayer, and I separate my anger, my confusion, my frustration from all of that, and I pick up that sage, and I pick up those eagle feathers, and I smudge myself off, and I remember that I'm a Lakota. I'm an Ogallala. I come from strong heart people, and my ancestors endured so much more so that we could be here today, and that's what I remember, and that's how I separate things, emotions, and hardships. That's how I move forward in a good way.
I think one of the ways that I'm going to regenerate is maybe looking at this recording and continuing to remember those words and those reminders. Sky, I want to give you a chance to respond to the question too, but I want to make sure that we also don't leave this space. Red Fawn, I want you to think a little bit about, because I think there are a lot of folks who have tuned in, some folks who are just used to the History Colorado programming being really fantastic and are on, and who don't really even know a lot about Standing Rock and might need to go and Google and ask folks in their own community. Somebody asked that in the chat, and I would just encourage folks to ask in their own communities. I bet there are people who have had traveled to Standing Rock and would help to educate you and inform you. But I want you to think a little bit, Red Fawn, because I think there's a lot of folks who consider themselves in community with you. And I think Sky has given a lot of folks across the state of Colorado the opportunity to be in relationship and in community with you and to support you in this time. So I want you to have any asks of this community in ways that we can continue to support you, because you are still incarcerated and you haven't come home, and we want that also. And so I give Sky a chance to respond to the question. I want you to think about how do you want to be supported and what asks do you have of us? So Sky.
Not sure if I can add much onto what my sister said, but I'll say that I think, yeah, being on the land, I like to go home. I like to go back to where my dad lives, and I like to spend a lot of time with my dad, honestly. I like to spend a lot of time with one of the most spiritually based people I know, and I really consider myself fortunate to be related to him, and it's just really good to be able to be with him and to be on the land, because you just never know how long you're gonna have with them. And my dad is really important to me, and so I just know that maybe our time is not forever, and so spending time with him has been one of the most important things that I've done recently. And it's just, you take for granted sometimes the people that have all of these things to share with you. And so I just want to not do that. And so that's something that I've been really working towards, to try to spend time with people that fulfill me, and being on the land. And so those are things that I do to try to recharge. And that was something that I feel like me and Red Fawn both have experienced. The last time that we really saw each other was we both lost our moms, and it was just something that I'm forever grateful to Red Fawn for, because, and I just really need to say this to you, Red Fawn, while I have the chance, because I've wanted to say this to you for so long, because this is a story I told a long time ago about, you were the only person that wrote, you texted me every single day after my mom died from jail. And I'm so thankful to you for that, because even when you were in prison, your prayers and your love for me went beyond those cages that they had you in. And so I love you so much. And just, you recharge me, you know, your spirit recharges mine. And the community in Pueblo, you guys recharge me when I feel like I don't really have much left. You know, going down to Pueblo and spending time with y'all and getting rowdy in the streets, like, that's recharging to me. And the people back here in Denver who I've been getting in the streets with, like, I love you all. And I know some of you all are online right now, and y'all recharge me. And the people in the living room that are with me right now, they all fucking recharge me. And so, you know, it's the people that I love and care about. It's my ancestors, because sometimes they whisper good things into my ear, or they tell me, like, you know, they shake me and say, wake up, girl. Like, we gotta keep going. You can't stop now. You gotta keep going. You gotta just put one foot in front of the other. We gotta keep going. And because, like my sister said, our ancestors never gave up. They kept going for us. And so we're gonna keep going for the next generations to come. And so I just really want to say thank you to everybody this evening, and really just, like, I love you so much, Red Fawn. And I'm just like, it's so good to see you. And thank you so much.
It's so powerful to hear you say that our community here in Pueblo is a place that you come to reach, because I think we worry that we take too much from you when you come, and we ask and expect too much of you when you come. And so, so thank you for saying that. And so, Red Fawn, I want to know how this community of folks, your community, your broader folks, can support you in the coming months until you can come home.
Okay, so just to answer to what Sky said, I love you, Sky, and I'm grateful that I'm able to sit here with you, and to be a part of this. I really believe that this is, you know, this direction that we're going and bringing us together is it's what our mothers and what our families want, and how it's supposed to be. And I look forward to coming home and being in home with you. That's something that I really and truly look forward to, and I'm grateful that I've had you for a little sister in my life, and for a long time in my life. And I'm grateful that you're my friend. Beyond my sister, you're my friend. It's not just an obligatory relationship. It's a loving relationship. And it goes both ways. And I have so much admiration and respect for you. And I keep up with what you're doing. And I love your dad. And I keep him in my prayers. And, you know, I always visit him throughout my time being locked up. And I'm thankful for Uncle Glenn, and thankful for your mom and your dad raising such a beautiful spirit, a strong heart, someone that, you know, I really look up to, and I'm proud to know. People in the community in Pueblo, I'm very thankful for you too, for making this happen, for bringing this about in my life. I've been really minimal on the speaking part that I'm doing, because I don't want to do anything wrong. I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to put myself out there like I'm some kind of hero, because there was thousands of us that were there. And yeah, I did have to pay a price for you know, for the part that I played up there. And moving forward, the type of support that I ask for is, you know, I'm on the home stretch. I'm good. I'm safe, sound, sober. I have a roof over my head. I have a really good job. I have a really good boss. I have a really good partner, and I have this, like, my community, my family is so supportive. There isn't really anything more I can ask for. Like, being humble, I just ask that you you know, you do what you can in your communities, help your elders and your youth out. Stay tuned for the Keepers of the Wisdom Project, because that's something that I'm definitely I'm gonna need support and help with moving forward. And hopefully I'll be home before the end of the year, and I'll really be able to do things support-wise. Send prayers to all our relatives who are sick with COVID. Send prayers for all of our young ones that are facing suicide. I have a big following on Facebook, and Every day I see relatives saying goodbye to their loved ones. You know, there's always tons of people starting their journey to the other side. And there's tons of people with COVID and cancer and, you know, hurting. Those are all sicknesses, but there's people that suffer in silence. There's brothers and sisters that are locked up. You know, one of my strongest prayers is for Leonard Peltier. You know, he's paying the ultimate price for what he believed in, for what he stood up for. And it's an injustice. And those things are happening every day with many people. I've seen many relatives locked up and taken away from their children because they're sick, because they use drugs and alcohol to ease their pain as a coping mechanism. So my prayers, or my asking, is for support and prayers for them, to remember them, to never forget them, to be a good relative, to not just cut those people off, to embrace them, to encourage them, and to never give up on them, because that's also a part of resistance. We have to resist the sicknesses that have been put upon us by the intergenerational traumas that we deal with. It's a part of our DNA. And so in order to reverse that and to right that, we must honor our relationship to each other. And, you know, in our way as Lakota people, when someone was challenged, you know, mentally or physically, those are the ones that we had pity for. Those are the ones that we really, you know, picked up and we helped, and we made sure they had clothes and they had a home and they had food, and you know, we want ushila them. We, you know, we took care of them. And so I asked that kind of support for our relatives. We have many homeless people. I see people have these big, huge platforms for doing like lip syncing on a music video. Those are the platforms that you need to use to ignite resistance in others, to help one another, to help each other, to help our young ones, to start suicide awareness programs, to build safe houses for our children that are being physically, emotionally, sexually, and psychologically abused. Those are things that the kind of support that I'd like to see going forward, not for myself, you know, but for my future generation and for my elders. You know, take care of them, honor them, go and ask if they need wood, go and ask if they need food. Those are all things that I'm going to incorporate into my program, is taking care of the ones that we need to take care of, because I'm taken care of. My ancestors are right here with me. My family's right here with me. But right now, you know, there's many relatives suffering, many relatives that need a hug, many relatives that need a helping hand and encouragement and prayers. So, you know, when someone's hurting, don't just scroll past their thing. You know, I know a lot of the interaction is on social media, so don't, you know, just offer like prayers and, you know, hope you're doing okay, or little encouragement. Those little things go a long way. As Sky said, you know, something that I did because that was taught to me by my mother, to check on her every day. When my mom was battling cancer, when she lost her life, Sky was there. You know, Sky and Uncle Glenn, they were there. There were so many people that came and sat with my mom and took care of her. And you know, they would be like, go home and take a shower when we're in the hospice, and you know, let us sit here for a while. And Sky was one of those people, and she did that out of the kindness of her heart and because of who she is and how she was raised. And so support moving forward, you know, keep those prayers strong. Light some tobacco, or light some sage and put down some tobacco, and you know, sing a song, share that goodness with one another. And you know, and when I start my project, then I really need support, and I really need community to be there and help with the things, getting people and volunteering and, you know, doing stuff like that, gathering. Then that's when I'll ask for support from myself, but not for myself, but for the project, to help with the youth and the elders. That's when I would like other people to become engaged. But right now, you know, the support I ask for our people that are hurting and suffering. I'm thankful for that.
That's a powerful and a big call to action, and we'll struggle to try to live up to that call to action.
Red Fawn Sky, thank you so much for this amazing discussion tonight. I really appreciate you both being here, and yeah, thank you so much. Thanks again to the Sangre de Cristo National Heritage Area and to Colorado State University Pueblo, and to all of our donors. Oh, Theresa, you're back. Did you have? I was just.
Thank you. I know you have a couple of things. I just really wanted to say thank you to Red Fawn and Sky, particularly for allowing us a peek inside your own relationship with one another and inviting us to that place. I'm really grateful to the both of you, and please know that you have a community here in Pueblo that will hold you and support you now and in the future. So thank you very much. Zach.
Yeah, and thank you, Theresa, for leading this great discussion. If you're interested in any more of our Borderlands of Southern Colorado talks, you can find them at historycolorado.org. And if you'd like to support this series, you can contribute to the Borderlands Project at coloradogives.org/community museums online. Thank you all, and we hope to see you at an upcoming talk.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wopila.